Hello everybody, this is the Starving Martian, host of Martian Peace Theater, and recently we have been going through the comic books, the Mars Attacks comic books produced in the mid-90s, 94 through 96, by Topps Comics. And we've covered Volume 1 of Mars Attacks Classics, the reprint, Volume 2, as well as Mars Attacks Image, and Volume 3 still waits for us, but before we get there, I wanted to just give a quick overview of these two Mars Attacks novels that were also published in the same time frame and do in fact take place during the events of the Mars Attacks Topps comic book series. So we're going to move through these pretty quickly because aside from looking at the covers, there's really nothing much to show you, but I'll give you a quick overview and then we'll move on from there. So, these two novels, Mars Attacks Martian Deathtrap and Mars Attacks War Dogs of the Golden Horde, they both were published around the same time the movie came out in '96, and they're by two different authors, Nathan Archer and Ray W. Murill, which is not his real name. He admits as much in the about the author section in the back and challenges you to figure out who he really is. So let's take a quick look at these two, and we'll start with Martian Deathtrap. First one published and takes place in the very early days, the first days of the Martian invasion. This is my favorite of the two novels, and it's also the most easily accessible to the average casual Mars Attacks fan. Aside from some mention of PayX and the fact that, just as in the comic book series, the control unit that they have for the giant insects fails them, doesn't work. Aside from that, this could take place in practically any Mars Attacks continuity. So you need to know next to nothing about the comic books to dive in and enjoy this. In fact, you don't even have to know anything about Mars Attacks as a whole, because it begins as the first saucers enter Earth's atmosphere and begin their initial attacks. The humans are caught off guard. You'll learn about the Martians as they do. It follows a group of humans who end up fleeing the Martian invasion. They end up in this giant mansion that's been turned into a kind of a tourist trap. Meanwhile, a saucer full of Martians is sent to investigate this mansion, and the two groups square off against each other. Meanwhile, these giant insects also come in. The Martians have no control over them, of course, and so it's Martians versus humans versus insects versus Martians versus insects versus humans. It's actually a good read. It's great fun. There's a good sense of humor going throughout without ever falling into parody or farce. Some of the Martians have fun little names for example, there's two Martians that often get paired off together. Their names are Bindar and Dundat. And like I said, out of the two books, this is the easiest just to jump into and enjoy. You need no real context. You don't need to know what's going on in anything else. And so out of the two books, if you could only buy one, I would recommend this one. As I said, it's my favorite out of two. It's rather easy. They're both pretty cheap on the secondary market. The second one in the series, Mars Attacks War Dogs of the Golden Horde. Okay, also a good book, but this is a completely different animal. This one is tied very intimately to the Mars Attacks comic book series. And you'll want to have read both Volumes 1 and Volumes 2 of Mars Attacks Classics before delving into this. This takes place after Volume 1, and so it takes place during a divided Earth. The Martians have partially conquered the Earth. There's a wall that separates the Mars-controlled areas from the human-controlled areas. And this book takes place around that wall and delves into the politics of the the struggles of the Martians, and they want to expand their territory and this and that. It takes place in China, and very much has to do with the Mongolians, the Mongols, who have had very little contact with the Martians. And it follows one particular Mongol, I believe his name is Khazar. He becomes known as Khazar Khan. He takes up the mantle of Genghis Khan. He wants to unite all the Mongols together into one great horde and invade China. That's his goal. And and the Martians are kind of helping him along because they're hoping to use his army to take over some of the Chinese territory and then be able to have this innocence about them. Hey, we didn't, invade and conquer and destroy. That was the Mongols. We just came in afterwards. And the problem with this book is I get the feeling that the author, Mr. Murill, um, didn't really want to write a Mars Attacks book. His focus is largely on the Mongolians and their drive and their quest and what they want and how they live. And and they take up a good half of the book at least, probably more. And I almost get the feeling that the Martians could have been taken out almost entirely. I get the feeling he really wanted to write this story about these Mongols, and nobody wanted to publish it. And so when he was offered the chance to write for Mars Attacks, he just kind of shoehorned the two of them together to make this novel. It doesn't mean it's a bad novel. It's good. It's enjoyable. Um, if you are a fan of the Topps comics, you might prefer this one because it has some of the same characters, has some of the same um, Martians, has the two factions. So if you're a fan of that sort of thing, then you'll enjoy this book. Um, I read this book before I read any of those, and it did take a little bit of getting into because I had no idea who most of these characters were. I didn't know that there was a divided Earth. What's going on? I don't know. But if you've read or at least seen the review of Mars Attacks Classics 1 and 2, you'll know what's going on. And so without any major spoilers, that's Mars Attacks, the novels, Martian Deathtrap, and War Dogs of the Golden Horde. Now, if you want to track these down yourself so you don't have a copy, I recommend getting the hardcover editions. These came out initially in hardcover. Now, the hardcover editions each have two punch-out trading cards in them, which you can leave in there for that minty fresh goodness, or punch out to put in your Mars Attacks trading card album. So yeah, definitely try to track down the hardcover editions. These here have a exclusive offer for the trading cards inside, but I'm positive that offer is long since expired. So that's the two novels, guys. Hope this has been a help to you. If you've never heard about these before, track them down. If you've read them by any chance, let me know in the comment section what you thought. We'll be back before too long with Volume 3 of Mars Attacks Classics. Until then, happy reading, guys, and watch the skies.